Not here at 7, and we start with breaking news as we take a live look at Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. New tonight, a powerful Republican congressman is now insisting that Denver's mayor testify before a congressional committee to defend the city's so-called sanctuary city policies. Thanks for joining us tonight on 2 Prime News. I'm Matt Morrow. The chair of the House Oversight Committee has sent Denver Mayor Mike Johnston a letter requesting documents and information about its policies and how it does and does not cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, and is now launching an investigation. He is demanding that Johnston and 3 other big city mayors go to D.C. to testify. So take a look right here. This is the post from GOP Representative James Comer of Kentucky, who is the chairman of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee. He says he wants to investigate the immigration policies of big cities and their impacts on public safety. So he says he's going to call on the mayors of Boston, Chicago, New York, and Denver, with Mike Johnston set to go to D.C. to testify. Congressman Comer says those cities stand out in their, quote, abject failure to comply with federal law. The hearing is now set for February 11th, according to the congressman. And just in the last hour, Mayor Mike Johnston has sent us a statement. It reads in part, quote, the most helpful thing congressional Republicans could do right now is fix our broken immigration system. While they work on that, we will focus on running the cities that manage the consequences of their failure to act.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the liberal sanctuary cities that are currently under the microscope in investigation by the Trump administration and Congress. Now, we've talked a whole lot about the woke mayor out of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, and we've talked about Eric Adams as well, too. Eric Adams is complying. He is cooperating with ICE and the raids because he wants that part, right? He's trying to save his political career. When it comes to woke mayor Brandon Johnson, he's a full-blown lunatic. Last time we talked about him, he was talking about slavery and reparations in response to the ICE deportations, the raids that are happening in Chicago, the city that we're not supposed to talk about. But today we got to talk about Boston and Denver, 2 other cities that have covered a lot when it comes to the illegal immigration crisis and how they have spent taxpayer dollars to take care of the illegal immigrants. And their mayors are hell-bent on defending the illegal immigrants from ICE and from the federal government. However, they have admitted, these mayors have admitted that they are in fear, right? They're in fear over the ICE raids and the mass deportations from President Trump, and also the possibility of them losing funding as well, too.
Can you talk to just Boston residents who are feeling that panic about how they should be informed of their rights, or if you have any message for people just in terms of being afraid of potential ICE raids, or how people can conduct themselves in order to protect their environmental leaders?
We are in intense and scary times for so many of our community members, and that is by design. It is intentional that the policies that have now been communicated, whether or not they are fully legal, and we see many of them working their way through the courts right now, including some that have already, even just in the first few days of this administration, seem to have been struck down, at least in the first steps in the judicial system. And on immigration, for example, largely what we have seen across the country in terms of the actions so far have mirrored the priorities and the same types of actions that took place under federal enforcement under the Biden administration. However, they're now including Fox News being embedded and going along on these actions, or bringing other celebrities to document what's happening, to create a sense of...
That said, you said this morning that there are people in the city who are afraid.
Yes.
Are you one of those people?
I am afraid for members of our community who I've talked to, who I know are afraid, and there are some things we can do to support them, and there are some things that will be outside of our control. But I think, so I've had hard conversations with families that I have to tell to make sure they have an emergency number in their daughter's backpack in case they don't show up to get picked up from school. Who are they going to call? And families start to cry, and that's a hard conversation. So we know that's real in Denver. And we also know there are a lot of other priorities to manage at the same time, including making sure that the city's safe, making sure that we reopen the 16th Street Mall, making sure people can afford to pay their rent in this city, and we're not losing focus on those either.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Democrats are afraid, okay? They're living in fear because of the prospect of ICE coming into their cities and arresting illegal immigrants. Wow, amazing stuff. I don't think that Democrats have this much concern and fear over the average everyday person and the crimes and chaos they have to go through as a result of the soft on crime policies in these cities and the illegal immigrants taking advantage of these soft on crime policies. No. They only care about people who aren't Americans, right? Democrats once again showing how they are America last, okay? But who knows? Maybe they could be in fear due to the fact that they might get arrested. I don't know. I would love to see Brandon Johnson get arrested. That would make my year, right? That would be the best thing ever to see Brandon Johnson in handcuffs because he wanted to try to stop ICE from deporting the illegal immigrants. But up until this point, none of these Democrat mayors have the cojones to actually do that, okay? They are simply saying, hey, well, we're not going to help them, but we're not going to stop them either, right? At first, they were talking big game, like they were going to stop the ICE agents from doing it, but that's not what they're doing, right? They're standing by, and honestly, they're helpless, right? They can't do anything about it, and I think that's what really scares them the most, okay? But you know who's not scared? ICE is not scared, even though you have liberals escalating threats of violence against them. So now you have these radical leftists threatening ICE for conducting these raids and mass deportations. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
In the meantime, California's wildfire rebuilding effort could be on a collision course with President Trump's immigration crackdown, already alarming the construction industry, which is facing a labor shortage. And now the president's deportation policy is encountering another issue: threats against federal ICE agents, violent threats escalating on social media, some promising the use of deadly force against ICE agents. Border correspondent Allie Bradley is following the very latest, joins us live. Allie, what more do we know about the legitimacy of these threats?
Yeah, hey, Nicole. So a lot of people watching right now probably wouldn't be that surprised to hear that there are some threats, some anger that's being kind of lobbied towards these ICE agents and officers that are on the ground right now doing these targeted operations. But these new threats that we just got a hold of that are circling social media are putting a direct threat at these ICE officers. And CBP is apparently taking them seriously enough to circulate this amongst agents and officers within the agency. So here's what we know here. We exclusively obtained a memo from our CBP sources, and included in that memo were 3 different posts. One of them encourages people to assassinate the ICE police in America, calling the agency a terrorist group. One on TikTok tells illegal immigrants to spit and urinate on ICE agents' food, to use nails to impale them and defecate in their vehicles. And finally, one just outright calls for the murder of local ICE agents. Borders are Tom Homan telling News Nation's Kelly Meyer this week that leaked information about these targeted operations has actually forced them to pivot in order to keep officers and agents safe in the interior of our country.
Wow. Now, shout out to News Nation for covering this story. This is an important story. You're not going to see this on CNN or MSNBC. Again, this is why their ratings are declining, right? They're missing the best show on television, right? They're not airing it. But who's doing this? Who's doing this? I think these news outlets need to be clear about where these threats are coming from. They're not coming from conservatives. They're coming from liberals. They're coming from Democrats, okay? Once again, Democrats not getting their way, liberals not getting their way, and what do? The first thing they do is that they want to use the threat of violence, okay? That's how these people operate. So now they're threatening federal agents to protect illegal immigrants. And this is why I say, when you look at the vast majority of the political violence, the domestic terrorism that happens in this country, it comes from the left. It comes from the left. It's an undisputable fact.
They continue to carry out these targeted enforcement operations. Take a listen.
We got many target cities, but I'm not going to share them with you because we got to keep our officers safe. Matter of fact, Chicago, that operation was leaked, so we had to reschedule that one. So we need the element of surprise, right? Because officer safety issues. We don't want the bad guy to know we're coming to keep our officers more safe.
Officer safety issues. And this all comes as 2 cross-border shootings were reported, one in Fronton, Texas, where Border Patrol agents actually exchanged gunfire with suspected Mexican cartel members. Now, further, this highlights the escalating dangers that is these agents are facing right now on the ground. The video you're watching from Texas DPS shows Mexican military kind of responding to that incident there. Now, Nicole, I do want to mention here, we did just get our hands on a new memo out of the Rio Grande Valley sector. That is where that cross-border shooting took place that we were just talking about. And this memo actually says that the cartel has authorized the use of these drones that are actually weaponized. So with explosives, using them against CBP personnel and other law enforcement officers down there. So it really is highlighting the growing threats down here. Now, it says agents are reminded to be cognizant of their surroundings. It says that they should be wearing their ballistic armor and utilizing their long arms. Nicole, I've never seen this written in a memo here. They always tell them, you know, be mindful of your surroundings. Alerting them to use their long arms is pretty shocking to see. And it says work in groups whenever possible. Now, we did hear from CBP where they said the safety of their agents and officers is paramount. That is their number one priority. They are taking all of these threats seriously and are continuing to look into them. Nicole.
All right. We know you are staying on top of it. Allie Bradley live for us. Thank you.
Wow. So what we have here is a full-blown war at the border. A full-blown war at the border. I mean, the cartel, they're using weaponized drones. Wow. Yeah, we should pray for the military at the border and for Border Patrol because, I mean, you know, closing the border is bad for business, right? Let's be honest. That's what's happening here. It's bad for business for the cartels. And clearly they're a threat, which is why you're seeing an escalation in violence. And that's something that we all need to look out for, okay? We all need to look out for potential acts of violence, okay, acts of terrorism as a result of what's going on at the border. Again, not just when it comes to these left-wing lunatics and what, you know, they tend to do when they get upset about something, but also, again, you just never know, right, with the cartel and them trying to sneak people into the country and stuff like that. Like, it's one of those things where we definitely need to have a heightened sense of security and awareness because President Trump, he's a regime change president. Okay. I mean, he's coming in and he's doing things that we've never seen before. And, you know, hey, when you have that type of change can bring chaos, right? To a certain extent because people get upset about it and it would try to cause chaos and destruction as a result. I mean, look at what happened during the BLM riots and the Antifa riots at the end of President Trump's first administration. I'm just saying, I hope, you know, something like that doesn't happen again. I just wouldn't put anything past liberals at this point. Okay. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.